mild moodcast. I'm super excited to have made it to episode 5. This is probably about the last episode that I will have for ADHD, and then I'll move on to another topic. I've had a few requests, so I look forward to getting to other things. I love talking about ADHD, and I know that there's only so much that we can say. And obviously, these aren't therapy sessions, these are purely conversations. So, can't quite touch every single thing, but we touched about as much as we could. With that being said, today I am kind of going back a little bit into goals, planning, setting boundaries, with the idea that we've already spoken about how to plan our day. We've spoken about how to start setting boundaries, things like using timers. And I realized after having a session this week, actually, with a client, a lot of times people will think, I've already tried that. And their experience will essentially stop them from trying again, from trying it in a different way. Sometimes you'll hear things and say, yeah, that didn't quite work for me, without recognizing that the way that you did it before might have a similar name, but it might not necessarily look the same. In the very beginning of this, I talked about basically working smarter and not harder. Knowing that we've spent our entire lives, most of us, trying to do things the way that everybody else does. So when I say things like, put it into digestible bites, that might have triggered a thought that I've already tried that. I tried to put it into digestible bites. But what a lot of people don't realize is the bite that you thought was digestible was still too much. I think in my last podcast I was talking about, or my last episode, I was talking about setting times to do things. So if an hour sounds like too much, doing it for 30 minutes, or 30 minutes sounds like too much, doing it for 15. And in terms of goals for anything, I mean, it could be cleaning a room, it could be cleaning the kitchen, it could be a large goal that you have for a business. We have to make those into digestible bites. And people will talk about smart goals, which, yeah, smart goals are really important to have. They'll talk about how to make something a short-term goal or a long-term goal. But a lot of times people with ADHD are the people that have a ton of ideas. So when you have a ton of ideas, you probably have a lot of goals, a lot of things that you want to be able to accomplish. Today, I just want to focus on how to break those down like you've never broken them down before. Sometimes people are like, well, I was already using, Google Task, or I was already using Google Calendar. I plan my days already, and these things just don't work for me. Keep in mind, this isn't specifically feedback that I've gotten for the podcast, but this is feedback that I've gotten in session with actual clients. What I like to do as a person who has a lot of passions, first and foremost, I create what's called a goal landing space. Sometimes it's overwhelming as fuck to know that I have so many things to do, so many goals to achieve, and I have no idea where to start. The creation of a goal landing space for me was probably the best thing I could have done, because I knew I have all these aspirations. What do I do with them? So what is a goal landing space? I literally took a piece of notebook paper and I just brain dumped on the piece of paper every single thing that I wanted to accomplish. Now, if you guys know me personally, you know that I've had a lot of ventures in my life. And having a private practice is something that I want for the future. I have my LLC for a private practice. I don't have my own brick and mortar yet. It'll be in the works eventually. Simultaneously, I'm working on Mild Mood Co., which is stickers and stationery that are mental health related, for lack of a better way to put that. On top of that, surprise, I'm seeking another degree. And before I wasn't even in my focus. So when I first did this goal landing space, I put every single thing on it. I said I wanted to develop myself as a counselor. I wanted to do specific trainings. I need to take a specific test. I want to get LLCs for the two different things, Mild Mood Therapy, Mild Mood Co. So I have Mild Mood Therapies now. Woohoo! But I just kept going on this piece of paper. And I think it ended up being one page front and back and about a half of another one when it was all said and done. Your eyes might have jumped out of your head just now, because who has that many things that they want to accomplish? Me. Hi. I'm the problem. But I needed the ability to get them out of my mind, I guess, before I could do anything with them. And being able to have that allowed me to do just that, get it all out. So, okay, I had my goal landing space. After I did my goal landing space, I was able to then categorize those goals. So I had the Mild Mood Therapy goals, I had the counselor development goals, and I had the Mild Mood Co. goals. And I'm going to have even new goals for going into this new degree, so I'm going to have to revisit that again. But I took that moment to separate them and say, okay, now everything has a home. So maybe this is something that you've done before. Maybe you started to categorize your goals and put them with, okay, this is where this one needs to go versus this is where the other one needs to go. But it gets deeper than that. After you categorize them, you want to make some short-term goals. And honestly, we can say bump the long-term for right now, but this is kind of where the SMART goal thing comes in. And if you've never heard of SMART goals, just go ahead and look that up, because off the top of my head, I don't remember what SMART stands for, but I just know that they need to be realistic, they need to be measurable, things of the sort. So when you create short-term goals, you're giving yourself a timeline that's going to push me. We are people who are driven by timelines. It's really important. You probably heard about it a ton of times. Again, if not, Google, ChatGPT, they're going to be your best friend. So I have my short-term goals. Cool, great. Got a list of those. I need to split them down even further. So what does that look like? Let's say, and I'm thinking purely off the top of my head here, you want to revamp your website. So your short-term goal is to revamp your website. Okay. That can be one hell of a daunting task. I've got to completely redo a website. But what does that mean? So now on another piece of paper, I've written down revamp my website. For some people, that might mean new branding colors, a new About Me page, new product photos. Just a new brand story in and of itself. There are so many ways to break that down. And remember how I said before, if I tell myself that I have 17 things to do, I'm going to get really overwhelmed. Versus saying, okay, I need to do this one thing. And then I do the one thing and now I have 16. And so on and so forth until I have 0. This is where that happens. So instead of broadly saying, I need to revamp my website, I've now written down different things that it requires for me to revamp that website. I'm going to take one of those things and I'm going to break that down even further. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, this sounds like so much work. And you might also be the type of person that could say, okay, I'm going to get my colors. I'm going to do my about me. I'm going to do this, that, and the third. But think about what has happened to you, to your mindset, to your physical body before, when you went at it with that approach. That's my focus today. Taking it deeper than you have before. So if I say that I want to change my logo, I need to determine what the steps are going to be for me to get a new logo, or for me to create a new logo. If I do it from the standpoint of taking care of the logo myself, instead of having someone else do it for me, that's kind of where the branding colors are going to come in. Because I need to know the colors. I need to know the font. I need to know what type of logo I'm creating. Is it going to be a logo that's an image? Is it going to be a logo that's purely words? Is it going to be a submark logo? So on and so forth. It's late, so good luck with all the logo terminology at 9:26 p.m. But I have a lot of steps. And before I can jump into something, I need to know what I'm going to be tackling, right? So I've spoken about setting timers, setting limits for myself. But before I can even set the time and the limit, I need to know what I'm getting myself into. And that in and of itself can be a time. Okay, I'm going to take 30 minutes to write down these steps. And it might not even take 30, it might take 5. So cool. I've decided what I need to do. I am going to then plan. All right, I'm going to give myself an hour to work on my logo. Now, anybody that's ever worked on a logo, if you're listening to this, you know good and damn well it's going to take a lot longer than an hour. It is very likely because we're picky, we're creative, we have an idea. It might not pop up the way that we want it to, right? But the limit that you set on that hour is because I'm doing something that feels good right now. But if I go for too long, it's not going to feel good anymore. And now I'm going to be exhausted. So in my hour, I'm going and I'm deciding my font and I've decided my colors and I'm putting everything together. Maybe at the end of my hour, I'm still not quite done. I have my 15 and 20 minute timer. Of course, you need that 5-minute gap. I take a break. I come back to it. I start working on it again. I start cleaning up some things, adding to it, and just like that, at the end of it, I might finish my logo. I'm now getting that positive experience, that dopamine hit, that instant gratification from being to check off one thing from my list. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but my original goal was to revamp my website. I knew that inside of revamping my website meant creating a new logo. So I've now checked off something inside of that. Maybe I have a little bit of extra time and I want to switch over to working on the About Me section, About My Brand section. And I have the ability to do that. But you want to approach each of these things in that way. So that way, once I get all of those checked off, I can now check off that short-term goal of revamping my website. Maybe before I looked at it like this mountain. I'm at the bottom of the mountain and I'm staring at this giant thing ahead of me. And I didn't know how to conquer it before. Being able to break a goal down, if I'm using imagery, is like having little tents with water and snacks along the way up that mountain. And of course, I always say treat yourself when you're done. Because if you do something positive, we are trying to rewire our brain to experience happiness in that moment. Treat yourself with dessert. Treat yourself with some TikTok. Treat yourself with some family time. Whatever that treat looks like, you deserve it because you just checked something off of your list. That is how we continue being able to receive those dopamine hits rather than just completely getting burnt out, feeling like we're doing too much, no longer taking care of ourselves. I am not ignoring what my body needs. I'm not ignoring the people around me. And I'm not overworking myself. I'm breaking it down to such a small scale and figuring out what that looks like. So you might think to yourself, well, how do I know how many steps it's going to take? Genuinely, you won't know until you sit there and think, if I need to do an About Me section, what are all the things I need to get done? And why do we do that? Because otherwise we get stuck in that analysis paralysis I mentioned a few episodes ago of I have all of these things to do and I have no idea where to start. Pick one. Break it down. And when you think you've broken it down, break it down again. That way, it starts to chisel away at that big mountain. And after you finish that, you do it again with something else. And once you've done it a few times, suddenly your goal is complete. It works. And it makes you feel really good and not quite as overwhelmed. And of course, I said before, if an hour is too long, make it less. But be mindful about the time that you're taking to do the thing, because that's important. The second thing that I want to talk about today, and again, this one is really not, well, actually, I don't even know how long it is, to tell you the truth, because I can't see it. I'm not wearing my glasses. If you guys are looking at the video, you can see that I've peered over at my computer, but I didn't really have major topics to talk about tonight, just literally two things. The second thing is not related really to the first. Social battery depletion. This is actually also another topic that came up with a client, and I was like, you just gave me a really good idea for my podcast this week. I had a client say to me that they are normally a really social person. They love going out with people. They love being seen. They love being heard. And here lately, they haven't been able to keep up with it. I've been feeling really exhausted. I've been feeling annoyed at the people that I normally feel like fill my cup. The people who I'm always there for. And I said, it sounds like you're running on empty. This client, of course, has ADHD. This client is normally extremely outgoing, is a complete extrovert. So to be going through a place and time where they're not feeling like their extroverted self, it's a little concerning for them. It's very concerning for them, honestly. How do I know if I'm burning myself out socially? Usually you're going to experience irritability and fatigue. I'm getting annoyed. I have a shorter temper. I'm saying to myself, oof, I don't have the capacity for this. And I'm starting to mask. In the same way that everything else is going to take a lot out of us, being social can also take a lot out of us, even for the most extroverted individuals. And why is that? Because of a lack of boundaries. So it's not relevant to the other topic, but it kind of ties into the other topic because it is a boundary thing, right? Setting boundaries around how often to see people, when to say no. If I choose not to be open with my friends and I say yes to everything, I'm going to get burnt out. It's going to lead to masking. The reason that people mask is they are afraid to speak or be themselves because of the way they may be perceived. So if I can't, and I don't, tell my friends that I'm tired, that I cannot come out tonight, that I actually need to recharge my batteries. Now I'm there and I'm working double time, trying not to let them see just how damn tired I am. And that's not fair for me. I need to set boundaries and I need to give myself some recovery time. How does one set a boundary? How am I supposed to be honest about the way that I feel with my friends? First and foremost, if these are people that care about you, they're going to recognize that everybody has an off button. Everybody needs that time to recharge. Hey, I can't wait to see you again. I do need some time for myself right now. A little rest, a little rest and relaxation, and then I'd be happy to join you. If you're seeing them too often, you are not giving them all of you anyway. You're pretending to be a part of something, and then that falls. If we make the choice to say nothing, then we're short, we're snippy, we're not enjoying ourselves, and we have less capacity, and then suddenly we disappear. Because one thing is for sure, we're going to take that time one way or another. So would you rather your silence speak for you, or would you rather speak for yourself? Obviously, that's a question that you have to answer, but starting small. Thank you so much for the invite. I'm actually feeling really tired, so I'm going to sit this one out. There's something called assertive communication. Not passive, not aggressive, assertive. It's being able to take your wants and needs and another person's wants and needs into consideration and kind of coming together for a solution. Having assertive communication also means being able to say no and being honest about it. Not saying, oh no, sorry, I can't come out tonight, I don't have gas. Because a good friend might say, hey, I got you on the gas. And now you backed yourself into a corner because you didn't really want to go out. So saying things like, I'm actually feeling pretty tired, and I'll have to catch you on the next one. Or today's not really a good day for me. I want to be able to hang out with you. What other day of the week are you off? Allowing them some input. That way you have time to relax. They know that you still want to see them, and you come up with something that works for both of you. I know that there's a lot of people who are people pleasers, and it makes a sort of communication very difficult. But if we can practice it with the people that we feel the most comfortable, and we start to do it more regularly, it becomes comfortable. It becomes a part of who we are. So if you have friends who don't understand that you're tired and don't want to respect those boundaries that you're creating for yourself, maybe they are not your friend. But you deserve to not feel burnt out, exhausted, overwhelmed, seeing people that you would otherwise enjoy. Hopefully that helps. Those are my 2 topics for today. I think that my next might be anxiety, but you'll just have to keep listening or watching to see. Thanks, guys. Bye.